What's your darkest secret? When I was about 8, my dad got wrongly diagnosed with a couple different psychological disorders. His psychiatrist put him on loads of meds where I didn't even feel like he was there anymore. He was on cloud 9 and 24/7. So, that leads to this. My dad remarried to my stepmom, who had 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl. I was 9 at the time, my brothers were 5 and 13 and my sister was about 7. My oldest stepbrother regularly molested and raped my younger brother and sister. This problem carried into a lot of other things, rape/molestation between my 2 youngest siblings, as well as acting up. My little brother used to run around the house throwing shit. Yes, literally his own shit. He would do it as bad behavior, but would mainly do it when my oldest brother was chasing him to molest him. I'd wake up in the middle of the night to him touching them, telling them to be quiet. To this day, I just remember the look on his face and in his eyes while in the moment. I will never forget it. He was eventually put in juvie. Also, my stepmom used to make me sleep outside on the ground. If I fell asleep inside, she would wake me up, drag me by whatever limb she could hold on to, and put me outside. No blankets, no pillow, nothing 100 degrees or 25 degrees. Didn't matter. I was often locked out of the house when my dad was gone to work also. The minute he left, my stepmom would just make my life living hell. Physical and emotional abuse were typical. I bring up the medication my dad was on because he was a damn good dad and my best friend, and in the right mind, he would have never allowed that. He eventually went to a different doctor, got on different meds and left her. But, damn, that shit was hell. I still remember the day it finally broke. My dad and stepmom were screaming at the top of their lungs and my dad told her that he was gonna leave her and told me to get my stuff. I jumped on the kitchen counter, got right in her face, and screamed "Fu-hu-hu-hu-hu-hu." When I was very little, probably around 3 to 4, I used to play a game with my parents, where I'd go to the bathroom and brush my teeth before bed, and when I got to my room they'd pretend to be asleep, and I'd find creative ways to wake them up. Being so young, I thought my dad was superhero style indestructible and in thinking, so I decided to try something that would hurt a kid like me, but wouldn't harm him at all, since he was big. I found a pencil laying on the desk and tried to stab him in the eye with it. Luckily, he was peeking and stopped me just before I did it. To this day it gives me a sinking feeling in my stomach, thinking about what might have happened. I was a homeless medical student from Canada doing my rotations in the United States. I was well into the 6 figures in debt. I was living out of my car. It was too hot to stay in the car during the day, so I studied in public libraries, took extra time in the hospital, would explore cool parts of the city when I could. At the library I could charge my laptop and my phone and download a couple of episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond and Marcus to watch at night. I showered at a gym I paid $12 a month for, and slept in my car in this safer neighborhood in Houston that another Redditor told me about. The doctor's lounge in the hospital was fully stocked with snacks, fruit, and water bottles. I lived off granola bars and apples for quite some time. I considered selling my car, but because it was registered on Ontario, I couldn't legally sell it in the United States without formally importing it. It was a beat up Lexus only worth about $1,500 anyway. No one in my life, including my coworkers, friends or my parents knew. I convinced my parents I was living with a friend and his family and my parents gave me as much as they could, but it wasn't nearly enough to find a place to live, let alone eat. I tried to go to a homeless shelter, but I couldn't, because some shelters were only for women, there wasn't any space, and I was scared I was going to get robbed or worse, deported. At 13 I was having a really bad period for a week, that left me in a lot of pain, and with heavy bleeding. My mom sat with me the whole week, and made sure to keep checking up on me. Thing was though, I wasn't on my cycle, I was having a miscarriage. I had been pregnant for a good few weeks now, this being the result of a family member having their way with me. I still haven't told anyone, and I have no plans on telling even my closest friend or mom. It's kind of just something I plan on carrying with me to the grave. I suffer PTSD from a night where I feel like the choices I made led to a man's death. Only just started counseling when I realized it was really affecting me. My brother committed suicide. He and I were very close and no one saw it coming. As far as families go, ours is pretty open-minded. My other sister is gay and was going to get married. Our other cousin is trans. So it came as a great shock when we read my brother's suicide note and he was blaming us for not accepting him for being both trans and gay. Thing is, we never knew. He presented himself as male, never ever came out to us, never expressed any desire to dress the opposite gender. My sister even asked him what he wanted to wear to her wedding. He was gonna be best man. She had a diverse entourage and told him he could wear absolutely anything he wanted. The maid of honor was gonna wear a pantsuit. He said he'd wear a suit. Even his best friend was dumbfounded. So imagine our shock when his suicide letter tells us how close-minded we were and how he hated his birth name and couldn't go on living. The worst part is I found his body and have had PTSD since. My 8-year-old niece was with me when we came across him and it was gruesome. She hasn't been right since then either, and her parents are suing us for causing emotional damage to her. My sister got depressed, cancelled her wedding, broke up with her fiance. My parents were going to move, but now they can't sell the house because no one is willing to buy one where a person committed suicide in. We have been ostracized by the local community. My mother suffered a heart attack when she found out, and we ended up bankrupt from all her medical bills. But that's not the secret. The secret is that since then, I've hated my brother. I refuse to acknowledge that he ever existed. I'm determined to forget him. I deleted all my pictures of him, and whenever I think of him, I get furious. He ruined our lives. I stopped loving him the moment I found his body. I've always looked after my little brother and have stepped in to fill the role my dad left behind. I'm 26 and my brother is 15. One day my brother breaks down crying and I'm thinking shit, mom has cancer or a girl broke up with him. I asked him what's wrong and his response was that he wanted to be a girl. I laugh thinking he's pulling a prank like he does. Well, I might add, smart fucker, but he keeps at it. Usually he will break and admit it, but he didn't break this time. I was shocked and it felt surreal while we talked. We talked for a couple hours and our loving my bro was supportive and gave him information on being transgender, what information I knew anyways. He told me he hated pretending and wanted girls' clothes and all that jazz. Well, to wrap it up, whenever my brother comes to stay with me on weekends he wears girlish clothing and makeup. I always refer to him as her and he goes by Brittany. It weirds me out, but I see how much he enjoys being who he wants to be at my place. We still do the usual like video games and movies, but has stopped working out with me because he doesn't want to build muscle. So my little bro turns into Brittany on weekends and very much plays the role. His voice was pretty soft and gender neutral to begin with, but trying to play up being a girl it's dead on, though there are hints of my brother in some words he says. The worst thing about it is I never have the house to myself on weekends. He will always want to stay at my place because it's his favorite time and I can't break his heart by telling him no since he's pretty miserable during the week. My bro passes for a girl pretty well and I doubt most people would notice. I say he looks pretty as a girl, but if he starts taking hormones like he plans he shouldn't have an issue. However, that all in the future because our mom would probably flip if she found out A, he wants to be a girl, B, I knew, C, I helped him. I love my brother and consider myself his guardian. I try to be supportive even though it's weird. I'm pretty conservative, but it's my bro, you know. One more thing to add, took him to an amusement park this summer and he went as Brittany. He made a joke about people thinking we were on a date. It wasn't funny to me. The things I do for love. It's not a secret, and I'm very open about my pain. I'm a male, by the way. Molested a bunch as a kid. Different kids older than me. My aunt let it happen as they had a foster kid they knew had molested other kids and let me sleep on the same floor with him. My parents were drug addicts that neglected me and my siblings like no power no water at one point. My grandma hung herself in the basement 2 years ago and we found her. I don't need help and I will talk about it at length if anyone wants, but I refuse to be the victim. I've seen my whole drug addicted family be the victim and fuck that. Pain in the past does not dictate who I am. Life moves on. I won't let very bad and traumatic moments shape who I am. I'm pretty sure I'm a sociopath. I have not been officially diagnosed by a professional, but I'm almost certain of it. Whenever I interact with people, I develop a character that I play. My whole personality is designed to be liked and to fit in. I gain people's trust, even though it's all an act. My goal isn't to gain trust, so I can use it against them, but I always store things about them in the back of my head in case I ever do have to use it against them in the future. I don't think I've ever hurt anyone with this, but I always make sure it's an option if I feel like I need to. Almost every emotion of mine is an act. I really don't care about people's problems, but I will respond in a way that I feel they would like, just so I can get closer to them. Now, just to be clear, I say almost every emotion is an act, because I definitely feel real love for my wife and kids and that will never change. But socially, I'm completely fake. Everywhere I go, I'm well liked, and people always come to me to talk about things. That might sound like a total brag, but it's not the real me. I was born and raised in a place that has high suicide rates and a lot of traffic related deaths due to dark and icy conditions, so growing up, I've lost a handful of friends. Not a single death has affected me. The only things to ever make me cry are movies and music. For some reason, those make me feel the most emotion, which has led to a major obsession with them. I've always wanted to talk about this, but I never knew where to go, mainly because I don't want my cover to be blown. It feels weird as shit being like this. All I want is to experience a real social encounter that's actually me feeling connected to friends.